Have you ever felt like the more you question, the more disconnected you become? That when you peel back the layers of reality, the world begins to feel less familiar, and more foreign? You're not alone. In fact, that feeling might be the very mark of deep thinking. Throughout history, those who dared to ask, why, instead of just accepting, what is, have often found themselves standing alone. Not because they chose to be outsiders, but because they saw too much, and others couldn't, or wouldn't, follow. Friedrich Nietzsche once said, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." But he also warned of the dangers that come with seeing the world as it truly is. Because once illusions fall apart, comfort disappears too. But why does this happen? Why does clarity isolate instead of connect? Let's begin with a truth many ignore: most people are not searching for truth, they're searching for comfort. The average person doesn't want to be challenged. They want their beliefs confirmed. They want life to make sense in simple terms. Deep thinkers, they break that illusion. This creates friction. A deep thinker doesn't just question the world, they question themselves. Their curiosity is relentless. But that curiosity is threatening to those who've built their identity on certainty. This is why, when a thinker enters the room, people don't always welcome them, they brace themselves. Not because the thinker is aggressive, but because they represent change. And change, for most, feels like danger. Now, think about this: in social settings, people are drawn to charisma, confidence, and familiarity. But deep thinkers often operate in the shadows, quiet, observant, hesitant to speak unless they have something real to say. And when they do speak, it's not small talk, it's substance. But in a world that celebrates fast takes and viral trends, depth is often dismissed as too much. So what happens? The thinker withdraws. Not because they hate people, but because they see through them. They sense the performance, the ego games, the masks. And instead of playing along, they go inward. It's not arrogance. It's fatigue. Philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre once wrote, "Hell is other people." But it wasn't a condemnation of humanity, it was an observation of the roles we play, the expectations we carry, and the discomfort we feel when someone refuses to play the part. Deep thinkers become mirrors. And mirrors make people uncomfortable when they reflect things we'd rather not see. Even today, studies in cognitive science reveal that when people are presented with complex, uncomfortable truths, the brain activates the same regions used to process physical threats. In other words, truth, real truth, can feel like a personal attack. This is why intelligent voices are often softened, silenced, or ignored, not because they lack value, but because they demand emotional labor from the listener. And emotional labor is something most people avoid. Here's another layer: society tends to reward performance over insight. People who appear confident, even when they're wrong, are often more trusted than those who are quietly right. This is why influencers thrive while philosophers remain unknown. But there's beauty in that obscurity. Because while the world praises those who entertain, deep thinkers continue to explore, observe, and understand. You see, isolation isn't always a curse. Sometimes, it's a space for integration. A place to connect the chaos, to rebuild meaning, and to process what others rush past. But still, the path of the deep thinker isn't easy. It's lonely. It's uncertain. And often, it feels like a burden no one else notices. So what's the point? The point is this: if you think deeply and feel distant, it's not because something is wrong with you. It's because you're tuned into a frequency others haven't reached yet. It's not superiority. It's sensitivity. And in a world that numbs itself with distraction, sensitivity becomes a superpower. So if you've ever felt out of place in loud rooms, if you've ever stayed up questioning while others sleep soundly in certainty, remember this: you are not lost. You are just searching in a world that stopped asking questions. And that, in itself, is a rare and powerful thing.